Welcome to the November 12th, Monday edition of the Clemson Dubcast. Hope everybody arrived or returned safe and sound from Boston. Tons of people made the trip up there. If we were to have conducted a poll going into the game telling you that the offense would score 20 points, how many of you would have totally flipped out and maybe even thought Clemson loses this game? So certainly not what everybody was used to after 77, 59, 41, and 63 the previous 4 weeks. But that was a tough challenge up there, and I think most people knew it would be with a pretty good Boston College defense that was really lathered up and was throwing the kitchen sink at Trevor Lawrence and the offense. But boy, life is just a heck of a lot easier and less stressful when you have a defense like Clemson's to lean on just about every time out. Another amazing job by Brent Venables' crew, just totally balling up that Boston College offense. We got plenty of analysis of that and moving forward to this weekend's game against Duke, all this week on TigerIllustrated.com. So check it out if you already haven't. Title sponsor of the Clemson Dubcast, Parham Smith and Archenhold Law Firm in Greenville. Very happy to have them aboard. Couldn't do it without them. Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold, both Clemson grads, both huge fans. Forte of their firm is medical negligence. They represent patients and their family members in medical negligence actions. They also handle all sorts of other complex personal injury litigation. I can vouch for them. About 10 years ago, a family member had a pretty serious medical situation with one of the local hospitals. Went to Blake Smith, and he very quickly and authoritatively gave us some great advice, and we were very thankful for that. Parham Smith and Archenhold offers free consultations. Give them a call, 864-990-4581 or parhamlaw.com. Also sponsoring the Clemson Dubcast, the Abernathy Boutique Hotel. 2 more home games left, 2 more opportunities to go hang out at their pregame tailgate outside. They grill hamburgers and hot dogs. They also have a DJ and multiple bars outside the Abernathy. Going to have more details on this later this week and next week, but the Friday before the South Carolina game, Black Friday, late afternoon, evening, they're going to have the National Championship Trophy on display from 2016. Also going to have some live music inside, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, on non-game days, you can go inside and check out Tap's Bar and Cafe. Really cool atmosphere. Some good beers on tap if you want to have a nice, relaxing evening during the week. So check them out online at theabernathy.com. Okay, really fun conversation here with Chris Chancellor. Primetime is his nickname that he's had for, I guess, most of his life. I've known Chris since he played at Clemson from 2006 to 2009. He has always had just a big personality, just lights up a room, whatever room he is in. Overcame some really difficult circumstances growing up in Miami. Came to Clemson, and then thereafter, following his football career, settled in the Clemson area and has been here ever since. Has been a police officer for the Clemson City Police Department since 2011. Just a really super impressive guy, and it's been a pleasure knowing him, and was a lot of fun getting together with him late last week to talk his life, to talk Clemson football, and to talk a bunch of other stuff. So hope y'all enjoy this. Chris Chancellor, everybody. Okay, here we are with Chris PT Chancellor. How'd you get the nickname PT?
Well, it was given to me by a good coach when I was in Little League football. I probably was about 6 years old, and he stated I played like primetime. And so he unfortunately passed away when I got to high school. So I kept the name PT as primetime and just kind of shortened it down, and that's pretty much how I got that name.
You grew up a Florida State fan, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Can you, I guess we'll just go ahead and dive into growing up in Miami and how you got here. Like, did Miami, were they interested, but they knew you were a Florida State fan, so they weren't as interested as they might have been?
No, Miami actually was never interested in me. They always said that I was too small. Randy Shannon was actually the coach down there, and they said I was too small. I didn't fit their scheme of things. And I actually was a Florida State fan growing up this whole entire time. And I still don't know how I got to Clemson. I actually used to run away from Clemson. David Blackwell used to try to come to my school and try to recruit me and just get me to come up here and take an official visit. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was going across the field to see Coach Bell, which was actually my head coach. And I see this guy coming walking across the field, and he says, "Hey, Chancellor." And I look back, and I see it's this coach, and he has a Clemson shirt on. And I say, "Oh, crap, here we go." And I spoke with him. He was like, "I've been trying to reach you, man. How about you come and take a visit up to Clemson, and let us show you what's going on, and let us show you that we want to offer you." So I actually took a visit up here, and I loved it. And I still was always Florida State. But for some reason, something just told me, you know what? Go to Clemson. Just go to Clemson.
So your brother Demerick, for some context here, he had already committed, or?
Yeah, he had already committed to Clemson.
Okay.
And like I said, I was kind of back and forth between Florida State. I took a couple of visits. I went to South Florida, Rutgers, Oklahoma State. And I came on an official visit with him up here after he was already committed. And after I left, I was like, you know what? I'll just stick with my brother. I'll go down and I'll go to Clemson and see how that's going to treat me.
You were one of 7 siblings, and grew up in some rough times, I guess. What do you remember?
Man, I just I grew up in this place called Largemont, and it's actually right outside of Liberty City. I attended the high school Miami Edison, and my mom, she was real strict about us. She used to always tell us, to be home before the lights went down. We just remember, gunshots, people getting shot all the time, people breaking into people's houses. My house was actually broken into a couple of times while we were actually at home. So that's just some of the crazy things that we had to deal with down in that area.
You didn't have a father figure?
Yeah, actually my uncle.
Okay.
His name is Charles Chancellor. He's very well known in Clemson between all the players that I've grew up with and all the players that I've got to know. We call him Unc. Mm-hmm. So if you just say, "Hey, where's Unc?" everybody will know who you're talking about. So he's actually served as a father figure to me. And my mom, she got married to a gentleman named Fritz Renee, and he also was a father figure to me growing up.
I'll read an article from 2009, your senior year, before y'all went down to Miami to play. And you were talking about where you came from and the dangers and all that, and you said that's why you get out of Miami. Mm-hmm. Is that a kind of a common thing that mentors tell kids down there, man, you got to get out of this place, just sort of go somewhere else to sort of get away from it?
Yeah, I mean, Miami's a great place. Like I say, and there's no knocking on Miami because I know where I came from and I grew up down there and I've been through a whole lot. And I love Miami. I normally go down there probably, once or twice a year. I haven't been back down there in probably a year and a half since my grandma passed away. But it's a great place, but if you can, get out of there and better your career, better your future, it's a must. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've already grown up there my entire life. It's more to the world and more to the country than Miami. And like you say, I had people that was telling me, well, hey, man, there's, nothing but hate. You might have grew up with somebody and they see you doing well. They see you doing very successful. It can cause people to get, jealous of the way you've been handling yourself and the way, teams have been coming after you, or they see you may have some money or see you doing very well with your life. And it causes that emotion and it causes that, self-destruction amongst people. And like I said, they just hate you for it. And that's just the world that we live in.
What did your mother and your uncle give to you that other kids don't get in terms of that guidance and knowing right and wrong and all that? Yeah.
Well, my mama, she didn't play. We got a whole lot of beatings growing up. I mean, beatings with, boards and belts and everything. And just my uncle, he just taught me how to, become a man. My uncle, he actually didn't have his father around. So with him, teaching me how to become a man, and he actually is the biggest Miami fan there is. So he kind of wanted me to stay, I guess, to go to Miami. But he had family up here in the area. But yeah, he just, taught me the meaning of becoming a man And my mom just taught me how to be strong and to be independent because, like I stated, she did raise, my 5 brothers and 1 sister along with myself and just, a single household.
Where's Demerick now? And also, what are your other siblings doing?
Demerick, actually, he just had a baby not too long ago. He's still living in Miami. He was working for FedEx. I think he still is. And also, he was working for the hospital down in Miami. A couple of other brothers. I have one in Texas. He's going to school out there. He's a photographer. A couple other brothers that I have. Delvin Chancellor, he's in Maryland. So we kind of all spread out. He was in Miami, but I guess he figured it was nothing down there for him. So he actually moved up to Maryland with my auntie Keisha, who also served as a mother figure to me growing up.
When you came on your visit, was that the year that the West End Zone had not been built yet? Was that the year that Coach Bowden and the other administrators at Clemson decided that they wanted to get construction equipment and move some dirt around and knock over a tree so the recruits would see it just to create the appearance that they were progressing toward facilities? Yeah.
That definitely was a time frame when we was here because we actually was operating out of McFadden building, and it was real small. I mean, you can just tell, you come in a couple doors and it's just, man, we sitting on chairs that looks like, regular chairs that you can buy from a store or something. And just, it's like Coach Bowden, he had a good era and everything. And like I say, with him getting that process started over at the West End Zone, as you can see right now, he's laid the foundation as well for Coach Sweeney to come in and take over.
You were right there in the thick of it in October of 2008, 10 years ago. We actually just did a few weeks ago a series of articles looking back at the anniversary. When you look back at that crazy time of your head coach who recruited you out the door, and then here comes Coach Sweeney, what do you remember from that time?
Man, I mean, it was a tough time because I actually developed a good relationship with Coach Bowden. I was one of his favorites. Like I say, people don't have favorites, but I was one of Bowden's favorites. He would come into meetings and tell everybody, hey, Chris Chancellor, he always have a piece of grass in his mouth. And he'll tell everybody, they need to smile like me and they need to play more like me. And I was only 5'9", 148. And he'll tell the whole team, y'all need to play like Chris. He plays, 6'5", 230. And that kind of stuck with me because it lets me know that I was not out there and just develop this type of trust among the coaches and had to make a name for myself. And whenever he left and Coach Sweeney took over, Coach Sweeney, he was an aggressive coach. And I didn't think Coach Sweeney actually liked me at first because he used to always call me small and just mess with me all the time. And, we used to do one-on-ones, and I used to just beat his receivers down, like, all the time. And he would tell Tyler Grisham and Aaron Kelly and those guys, like, this guy is, 5'4" and 120 pounds soaking wet. How'd you let him do that to you? And I was like, hey, Coach, it's about heart. And so I used to give him a hard time about that.
Now, weren't you Vic Koning's teacher's pet? Isn't that what the teammates used to call you?
Oh, yeah. Little Vic Koning.
Little Vic. That's
Little Vic.
So one of the main reasons that Terry Don Phillips took a liking to Dabo was he said that when he would go down through the hallway in McFadden, when he was a receivers coach, that there'd be all sorts of players hanging out around his office, not just receivers, not just offensive players, but defensive players as well. Do you remember that, how people just sort of gravitated to him and his personality?
Yeah. Dabo's a player's coach, and that's this day and age what you need to be. Even though Dabo's, raising these men to further their careers outside of football and teaching them to become, young men or grown men after they leave Clemson, he's just a coach that loves his players. And that's been ever since day one. So it's not anything that he's developed over time and people can say, well, he's just now starting to learn his players or just now starting to love his players. He's always been that way. And like say guys, Jacoby Ford, C.J. Spiller, defensive guys, Mike Hamlin, all of us, we would go around his office and, we can just talk with him and just kind of relate with him and just have a good time with him.
Now, you mentioned David Blackwell. He recruited you. He was out after the 2008 season, I believe. Vic Koning as well. What was that like, two of the major figures in your recruitment and then also in your just playing defensively? What was that like, sort of seeing them depart?
It was kind of tough. I actually thought that Coach Blackwell was going to stick around. He called a great game. I think he was the interim defense coordinator after Vic Koenig left, and his last game was the Gator Bowl. But he called a great game, on Vic Koenig's scheme, and just, it was kind of tough to see him go because he was actually that one that gave me the opportunity to, come up here to Clemson. He was actually the one that came down to Miami to get this little old, 5'9", 148-pound soaking wet guy up here. And, I thank him all the time, whenever something I get an award or when people say, man, you love Clemson, don't you? And I always give Coach Blackwell a shout out because if it was never for him, I don't know where my life would be at right now. And as far as Coach Vic Koenig, he actually offered me a job whenever he left Clemson and whenever I got out of playing NFL football. He wanted me to come down to Troy and serve as his defensive analyst because he knew that I knew his scheme and the way I played for him. And just he knew that I wanted to kind of, stick around with football and just with me, being little Vic, I guess he felt like, hey, I want to get this guy down here with me.
You think Koenig maybe got a bad rap a little bit? I mean, because some of those years, let's say I'm just thinking off the top of my head, 05, 06, 07, 08. I mean, the offense was a roller coaster during a lot of that time, but defense was kind of the constant that kept you guys in games. You think he was he's not too fondly viewed, I guess, by fans. I think that's fair to say. Do you think that's kind of unfair?
Yeah, it is because, I mean, he didn't have an outgoing personality as Dabo would like to have, but he was kind of a coach that, knew what he was doing. Whenever I played for him, he's had a top 20 defense to 4 years. And I think his scheme of things, I think people just, wanted him to be more aggressive, on third and long and just to kind of develop that defense to just get after people. And the type of defensive scheme he had was kind of more the zone defense and to kind of just sit back and not just develop that physicality defense to where I guess Clemson football would like to see.
He and Coach Sweeney didn't really get along. Did you ever pick up on that as a player?
No, I tried to stay out of it. No, not at all.
So you've been a police officer for the Clemson Police Department for the last 7 years, correct?
Yes, sir.
Became an officer in 2011 after leaving Clemson, you signed with the Browns as an undrafted free agent, then the Jaguars, then retired, I guess, around 11. Is that right?
Yeah, after the lockout happened, I actually got a call from New Orleans Saints. And that was after I graduated the police academy and everything, and it was after the lockout, probably 2 weeks remaining in the preseason. And I knew that, I didn't want to go back and just kind of jump from city to city. I had already developed, my relationship with a whole bunch of people in town. My son was the most important thing to me during that time and, building a further relationship with him. And so it was just something that I said, hey, they always have a plan B. And, becoming a police officer was my plan B.
What was your major at Clemson?
Sports management.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know how it correlates with police work.
You're managing something.
But I actually still coach a little league football team here in town, which is Central Tigers. So I'm putting up the degree to use somewhat.
Your son, Chris Jr., he looks to be pretty good.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's probably going to end up being better than me. He's a great athlete. We call him actually PJ, which is Prime Junior.
So tell me about Police Academy.
Whew, my gosh. I tell you one thing. If I ever got out of police work, I would not go back. It was, playing football, it kind of developed me into leading to that police academy. The hours and the structure and, sitting in the classroom the same way I felt like far as sitting in the meetings, paying attention to detail, and getting up early mornings, going running, dealing with the stress of everything, far as, driving, shooting, defensive tactics. Everything in football taught me as far as all the structure and everything. So I was able to take and transition from football over to the police work because, like I say, with that structure and everything, it allowed me to develop that career.
Where is Police Academy?
It is actually down in Columbia, South Carolina, off Broad River Road.
How long does that last?
When I went through the academy, it was 9 weeks. Now the police academy is actually 12 weeks. So they just added on a little more weeks to it.
And did you ever, in that time between football and becoming an officer, did you consider anything else? Were there any other options in your head?
No, not at all. I used to beg actually Captain Rhodes, who was a captain over at the Clemson University Police Department. When we used to get a ride to football practice, I used to always see him in the middle of the road, directing us across. And I developed a relationship with him. Was like, hey, when I get out of football, I want to become an officer. And he told me, well, you're going to have to cut your hair. And he didn't take me real serious. And after I actually got out of not police work, football, I went back to him and saw him and said, hey, I'm ready to become an officer. And he said, well, you got to cut your hair. He's like, I don't think you're going to do it. And I actually went and cut my hair that next day and came and saw him. And he was like, well, wow, this guy is serious. And from there, I was able to get an interview and started my police career.
What's the best thing about being a police officer and the most challenging thing about being a police officer?
The most challenging thing is just the unknown. You never know what's going to happen when you show up to a call. You never know who's, behind that car you stopped or behind that door that you're going to go see. Just the unknown. The greatest thing about being a police officer is just the community relations, just going out there and helping a lot of people. A lot of people see police officers as bad. However, you do have those that see police officers as heroes. And just, looking at my son and looking at him call me his hero is the thing that I want people, to realize that, we are the same people whenever we take that badge off. We're regular human beings. So that badge don't define us as human beings. And just, going out there and serving the community is something that I love to do.
What's the most stressful situation you've been in?
The most stressful, I probably can't discuss a couple of those. But it's been a couple of stressful situations that I had to deal with here at police work.
What's your schedule like?
We work actually, let's say 14 to 15 days per month. We work 12-hour shifts. So I'll probably work a Monday, Tuesday. I'll be off Wednesday, Thursday. Then I'll work a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it alternates. So that next week, I'll be off that Wednesday. Well, I'll be off that Monday, Tuesday, work Wednesday, Thursday. And actually this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm off. During football season, there is no off days, really. We're always working. Even if it's our off weekend, we are to work, some type of football game, downtown Clemson, dealing with the crowd. So it's pretty challenging during football season.
Chris, you have quite a presence on Facebook, and I don't really go to Facebook much, but I think I'm going to start going more often just to read what you're writing and the videos you're shooting on there. Your Halloween... I hate that this is a audio only, that we can't provide the video of it on this podcast, but you impersonated Smokey from Friday, and it was hilarious, hysterical. And you're also kind of like a voice of reason on there with some of your posts. On Election Day a few days ago, you said, sometime tonight the results will show the person you voted for is not going to win. Many folks will argue, hate, and many folks will get angry with others' Facebook posts. Just remember 3 key points. God still loves you. Number 2, you exercised your American rights. Number 3, I'm marking myself safe from voting arguments. And then another post, you said Alabama's the real deal. Psych, LSU has no offense. They can't line up with these Clemson boys yet. Collision course. Don't debate me because I'm not going to respond. And then the best one, you said, seriously, no lie, Ren Johnson is my witness. When Clemson was losing in the fourth quarter by 10 points, so this was, I guess, the day after the Syracuse game in late September. When Clemson was losing by 10 points as we were directing traffic in the hot sun, I put my hands together and prayed this prayer. Dear Lord, baby Jesus, please let Clemson win today, and I promise to give up Chipotle for 1 month, except next Sunday. And boom, Clemson wins. It's going to be a hard month ahead after next Sunday. So I guess you like Chipotle?
Oh, my gosh. I love Chipotle. I love Chipotle.
So you followed through on that?
Oh, I did. And it was a long, long, long month. Actually, I had to eat at Moe's a couple of times because it kind of resembled Chipotle a little bit. But a lot of people used to tell me, PT, you can't cheat on Chipotle. And that probably was my second time ever eating at Moe's. And it was a long, long month. I mean, from October the 6th to November the 6th. So I was counting the days down. And I was actually in training here, defensive tactics here this past Tuesday. And everybody was coming up to me, PT, hey, where you eating lunch at? And I would just stop and look at them and just start smiling. And I say, well, you know it's time. And they already knew I was going to be at Chipotle. And that's exactly where I went at.
The voice of reason part, like the positive posts, what do you make of how and why everybody is at each other's throats nowadays on social media?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And that's the reason why, I post nothing but positive on my Facebook and try just to get everybody to, interact with each other. I mean, we're all put here on this earth and we all have, different opinions and different beliefs. And not everybody's going to, agree with what you say. Not everybody's just going to disagree with what you say. But it's so much negativity in this world today. And the reason for my positive post is to show everybody that, we are one human race. I mean, God loves us all, and he just, puts us here, and he wants us to get along. And so no matter, the political belief that you may have, your faith beliefs that you may have, just know that God loves you, and he just wants the best for his children. And I don't like negativity at all. Each morning I wake up, I cross my heart, and I thank Jesus that my eyes open. I tell my grandma that I love her. I read scriptures from actually a text message that I get from New Springs from a 30303 number. And I read those scriptures and I start my day. And it's just something far as just remaining positive, smiling around people. I don't want a bad day because that one time that you may have a bad day is the time that, somebody may want you to have a good day. And you just have to go throughout life and just smile and show others that you're always positive. And maybe this person who, is out here having a bad day, they see you smiling, you go up, you talk to them. Hey, maybe, you save this person's life and something like that.
You think you've caused anybody with your sort of view on that to maybe change the way they communicate on Facebook, not to be so angry, I guess?
Mm-hmm. I mean, most definitely. I mean, you'll see a lot of guys, most people share my posts and say, hey, amen, brother, or hey, way to preach, PT, because that's the way the world should be. I mean, everybody has an opinion. And like I said, I don't argue with people. I don't like to argue with people as far as on Facebook because, something may get taken out of context or, this person said that or this person said that, this person believed that, this person believed that. So, I mean, just showing love and showing the positivity in everything. I mean, that's just the way to live life.
Business owners out there, if you own a business that accepts credit cards, you need to listen up. Tandem Payment, based right here in the upstate, run by Clemson folks, is changing the face of payment processing, quickly becoming the most cost-effective solution for all small businesses. Tandem's program saves you up to 90% on processing charges and gives your customers what they love most, choices. This is not some crazy introductory offer. Tandem's technology allows business owners to offset their credit card processing costs by applying a small customer service charge to each sale they make. If you want to know more, visit tandempayment.com today. Former Tiger Hot Rod McDowell works over there at Tandem Payment. They handle all their business and customer service face-to-face. So give them a call, 864-672-1570, if you're tired of spending an arm and a leg on all those credit card processing fees. Clemson University, predominantly white by a large margin. The community, predominantly white by a large margin. How much of a challenge is it for an African-American to come here, not just as an athlete, but as a student too, and adjust? Is it a challenge in your mind? Like, what do you tell people, who are going through that maybe for the first time?
When I first came here to Clemson, it was, like you say, university predominantly white. I didn't know what was going on. Far as, not seeing a lot of African-American people on campus besides, a bunch of athletes. And then was able to see, I got a lot of, fraternities and sororities around campus. So what I did was, I just embraced, every race, no matter if you're white, black, Hispanic, Chinese, whatever you may be. I was able to just develop a lot of relationships with everybody, understand, being on the football team. It taught me a whole lot as far as that culture, being a brotherhood, listen to each other's story, see where each other came from. And then, you judge that book by its cover, because you don't judge a book by its cover. Everybody knows that, get to know someone, get to know where they came from, and then you can understand, the way people act or certain things. And like I say, being on a football team, it's a brotherhood, and it allowed me to actually build relationships with, anybody.
CJ Spiller, recently he was on the podcast, and he has come back, and he said his long-term plan is to settle here and work in some fashion, either with the football program or administration. But he's coming back here, and he's going to stay. You've obviously been here for a long time. How, I guess, cool is it or interesting is it that a Miami kid, and then a kid from Lake Butler, Florida, end up not just coming to play football here, but settling here?
And like I say, Clemson, it's a community town, and Solid Orange, we're all one big family. With him coming from Florida, myself coming from Florida, we just was able to develop relationships around the entire Clemson community. That's a big positive because, you'll go some places and people say, hey, PT, and it's people that you actually don't even know. And the same thing with CJ. He can go a couple places and somebody recognize his face and just, make him have that family feel. And that's what Clemson is all about. And whenever you develop relationships with the community, the people that's, you're serving, or like say with CJ Spiller around the sports area, it's just a family brand. And that Paul tells it all. It tells it all.
What did Coach Sweeney give to this football program that it needed in your mind?
Man, he gave it swagger, and he gave it just that family atmosphere, that family feel. And that's all what Coach Sweeney is about. He's about faith, and he's about family. Those two things are the major things. Because like he said, whenever all the dust is settled, the trophies that's in the trophies that's in the box, the trophies that's displayed, everything in this world is going to go away. And having that family feel, believing in your faith, are the main things that's going to get you through with the good Lord.
Is it crazy to you? I mean, you mentioned earlier y'all were in McFadden. The whole football program was there in Jervy. And now you have this palace over there, Dabo Land, I guess we can call it. Does that just does that amaze you that they've come that far in that area?
Oh yes. That feeling over there, that palace. I've been over there a couple times, coaching at Coach Sweeney's football camp. I normally go over there to see DeAndre McDaniel, which is actually my best friend, who's coaching on the team. It's like trying to get to the president. You can't really get through. When these guys was at the West End Zone, I could just go up in there, but now it's like, man, you got to put a fingerprint to get in certain doors. And, I feel like, whoo. So I kind of just stay away from over there right now until I'm, actually needed over there for something. What's
your take on the whole concussion issue?
I mean, it happens. I mean, it's football. We know what we signed up for. I like the way, certain, rules and regulations have been established with the concussion things and the concussion protocol that normally happens. I mean, you have, guys running, 4.3s, 200 pounds coming at you full speed. I mean, it's a collision. It's bound to happen. There's no way that you can prevent, concussions. You can do all these studies and read books on concussions, and I mean, it's going to happen because of the type of physicality in this sport.
Your son plays full contact, PJ. Any concerns there?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes out there, he has fun. He actually tells me sometimes, Dad, what if that guy got a concussion or something? But he still goes out there and he plays the game because it's just, a game that he loves.
Should players be paid?
Whew, that's that's a good topic right there.
Facebook topic.
No, my thought. I think actually that players should be paid on the collegiate level. A lot of coaches may not agree to that, but if you look at it, I mean, yes, they do pay for our books and our board and everything. But let's say if you have a child, when you're in college, you don't have enough money to take care of that child. I had a child when I was in college, during my junior year. And had to go all throughout my senior year, got not getting paid. The stipends that we get for us, like I just said, the food and the rooms and everything, it doesn't translate to being able to take care of my little one. NCAA, it is $1 billion industry. And you can see, you go walk around downtown, people selling Travis Etienne jerseys, number 9s. People were selling James Davis jerseys, CJ Spiller jerseys, the ticket sales. I mean, these players don't get anything at all, for these sales. I saw a guy here a couple of years ago actually with my official jersey that he purchased from the surplus, I think, here in Clemson. I didn't even know until he stopped me when I was actually patrolling the streets and showed me, hey, man, I got your jersey. Could you sign it for me? I'm like, where you get that from? And, so, I mean, I didn't see any profit from that. And so I actually think that players should get paid.
Would it be different if coaches were making like $1 million a year instead of $10 million a year? You see what I'm saying? Like, because clearly players see that money going elsewhere, and you could argue, I mean, the players are the labor force pretty much. Is that the I guess the problem that current players have with it when they see so much money being made, so much more money being made because of all these TV contracts and all that? Kind of hypocritical, maybe.
Well, I do believe the coaches, they should be paid the way they're paid, which is good because a whole lot of stuff go into, coaching. Dabo, getting paid millions of dollars. I truly, honestly believe that he's worth that money that he's getting paid. Brent Venables, those guys deal with a whole lot of stuff. But as well, like you said, as far as with the players, billions of dollars on ticket sales. Like I explained earlier with all the jersey sales, football players bring actually a lot of business to that community. All right, because people are coming to watch the players play. All right, they come also to watch the coaches coach. But without the players, there is no game. Without the players, there is no game. So I honestly do believe that, players seeing all this, millions of dollars going to TV contracts and everything with ESPN and, ABC, they deserve a little piece of the pie too as well.
Counter argument to that. All right, so not only are you getting a scholarship, which enables you to get a degree, all that's paid for, but for high school players, higher profile high school players, the goal is obviously to get to the NFL. The argument being, okay, you come to Clemson or Georgia or wherever, and you're going to get the highest level training for that. You're going to go into the Dabo land and be training in this monstrous weight room. You're going to have this massive nutrition staff and then the training table and all that. And so they're basically, that money is going to the players, just not directly monetarily. You see what I'm saying? Is that a good argument, you think?
It is kind of, sort of, because like I said, we are getting, top of the notch facilities here. But think about some of the small colleges, like say a Duke, for instance, or, or a Bethune-Cookman, or, just smaller colleges on that level. They don't have the top notch facilities that we have. So them not being paid is something that I would say that they may be upset about a little bit, because like I said, once you come to Clemson, you see, like you said, Dabo Land. It's a palace. I mean, everybody loves it. The family atmosphere, the family feel, the players going out there busting their tails. But at the same time, these players not getting paid, they can say, well, you know what? Yes, I'm getting my scholarship. Yes, I'm going to get a degree. Yes, I'm building these long-term relationships, but what happens if this player suffers a career-ending injury, a neck injury, a spinal injury? The only thing that they'll have to go back on is actually their degree. I mean, in the relationships. The degree in the relationships, it's not going to pay bills. I mean, even if you have a degree, you still have to go out there and earn your way throughout the world and try to get a job that's going to pay you the type of caliber money that you may want to survive and that you may need to survive.
And I guess a good counter to the counter that I just presented is you can have a great college football player that doesn't play in the NFL.
Exactly.
Like Ben Boulware was one of the best players on that team. His skills didn't necessarily translate. Woody Chancellor, I mean, he was a one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-generation type of player. He just didn't translate. I mean, Chris Chancellor, you were a really good college player too. So did you have any struggle moving on from football?
At first, I did, because it kind of, whenever I played for Cleveland Browns, I was actually the starting nickel, a couple games for them. And I was the last cut, actually, with them. And I remember like it's yesterday, one of the guys called me and said, hey, pack your bags. I know you probably wasn't expecting this phone call because you've been very great. and everything with us. But unfortunately, we don't have enough room right now to keep you. They end up keeping, I think, 11 linebackers because we ran a 3-4 defense. And actually, Rob Ryan was the defensive coordinator. And it was kind of hard at first. But like you say, I've already knew that I had plan B set in my mind. After plan A, I directly went into plan B. I didn't have a plan C because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And that's when I kind of stressed to a lot of the football players, don't rely on, football, because at the end of the day, this game is not going to be here forever. You need to have your plan A and your plan B, because when all else fails, when football is over and done with, you need to be able to go out there into the real world and deal with, having a job, a 9 to 5, or, working 12-hour shifts. And that's something that, like I say, I've already had my mind made up.
What's wrong with Miami and Florida State?
Oh, my gosh. Whew. Man, Miami, I just don't know what's wrong with Miami. They have the athletes.
Right.
Mark Ritt, he's a great coach. But I just honestly don't know what's wrong with Miami. I think they need a quarterback change from my standpoint, because a team it starts with the quarterback. And with them going back and forth between, Perry and also, what's the other quarterback's name?
Number 12.
Number 12. I got a brain freeze right now.
Played in the ACC Championship last year.
Yeah, we did.
Can't even remember.
Them going back and forth, switching between the two quarterbacks, it is just causing a whole bunch of havoc. Their defense is top notch. Their defense is great. And just, them not having that stability on, sticking with one quarterback and he playing well that's what's going on. Florida State, I don't know what to say about Florida State. Man, a lot of my guys, I have a good friend named James Hill, and he loves Florida State, and he tells me, man, I don't know what's wrong with us. We supposed to be, we got 5-star athletes and, 4-star athletes just like you guys have them. And I think he blames it on the offensive line for them. So I honestly don't know what's going on with Florida State. I expected them to kind of contend and also be up there with us, battling for an ACC championship in the Atlantic side.
Malik Rozier is the
Rozier. Okay, that's it.
You mentioned it. You hit on it. There's plenty of talent at Florida State. There's plenty of talent at Miami. Yet when you turn on the TV and compare them to Clemson, you don't see the punches being thrown. You don't see the avalanche of undisciplined penalties and play and all that. Mm-hmm. Is that a product of just a difference in culture, or is it, or this Clemson staff can be more selective in who it goes after? Like, it can get a 5-star with more between the ears than some of the other 5-stars that might not be as put together mentally. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You may have, go out and recruit these players that, you may see one that's a hothead. Like you said, guys throwing punches. I'll tell you one thing. You do that at Clemson, Dabo's not going to play that. And like I said, you go out and get these caliber players that fit your program. Miami back in the day was, the most ruthless, hard-nosed, I don't care, go after you, hit you in the mouth team, back in the day in the 1990s and the 2000s, early 2000s. But as you can see with Clemson, we may go out and get the nicest player, but on the field, he brings it. And like I say, it starts with the top with Dabo and the recruiting coordinators and knowing who they go after. And with Florida State, the same thing. They can go after these 5-stars and not know them entirely. Dabo actually takes the time to go home, sit with their families, bring them up here to Clemson, see how they feel, to see if they fit this type of atmosphere that he has developed and that the players and the family that he wants around.
What's your take on Brent Venables?
Man, I love that guy. I see him around the community a lot. I seen him actually trick-or-treating. We went to a country walk, and we seen him trick-or-treating. So every time I see him, he's, football. And I love that about him, because he's worth the money that he's getting paid for, because he's hard-nosed, and he gets after it. I see him on the sideline a couple of times. I actually think he gets kind of, angry with his get-back coach that's pulling on his shirt. I had a conversation the other day. I say, man, I don't think I can do it. Somebody pulling on my shirt constantly or trying to make me get back, I'm going to look back at him and say, hey, leave me alone. Let me coach. But it's actually all fun and games, so I'm pretty sure he appreciates that.
Was he wearing a costume?
A coaching costume. Nah, he was in some just shorts and a T-shirt.
Your favorite memory from your career at Clemson?
It would probably be beating Miami.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite memory because all the crap that my family in Miami gave me, Miami didn't want me. I was too small. Here in 2009 when we beat them, that was my favorite memory at Clemson.
You wore number 6 in that game in honor of a friend on your high school team, Jasper Howard, who died after being stabbed outside of a school dance.
Connecticut.
Does that add to it, the memory of that?
Yeah, it most certainly does because actually when I went to Dabo, I was like, hey, my high school teammate, a good friend of mine, was killed up in Connecticut, Jasper Howard. I want to do something in his honor. We're actually playing Miami this week. With your permission, will you allow me to wear number 6? And he actually, thought it was a great idea, and he allowed me to wear number 6. And going down to Miami, like I say, where we both grew up at, just taking it down there and wearing that number 6, just representing him in that game as well, and also getting a big victory was just a big part of it.
Clemson wasn't known for big wins back then, really, as much as now, so it's kind of hard to think of that time.
Mm-hmm.
But was that the moment where it felt like anything seemed possible after you win a game like that? Like you could see the vision sort of maybe life under Dabo and winning a lot of games?
Yeah, I can say everything kicked off against LSU. I can say that was the defining moment for this program. 4th and 15-16, and Nuke Hopkins catching that ball from Taj Boyd and Catman making that kick. That was the defining moment, and that kicked off the Clemson, dynasty right there.
Going back to that game at Miami in 2009, I found a quote from you in the state newspaper. You said, "When I came to Clemson, some of my family switched over, but a lot of them are still the you this, the you that. Everybody tells me the U is back, speed and talent and all that. I just laugh it off and say, well, prove it on Saturday. Here we are, and Miami still ain't back."
Nope. Every year it's the same thing. They say, well, the U's going to be back this year. When they went to play LSU at the first beginning of the year, the U's going to be back. We're going to show y'all, and look what happened. So I don't think the U's back. I don't think they're ever going to be back. Not right now in this day and age. Not with Clemson owning this ACC.
How many people have converted down there to Clemson?
I'll tell you, I actually had a shirt made by my good friend Talia McDaniel, which is actually DeAndre McDaniel's wife. She had a shirt made that half of it had a U symbol, the other half had a Clemson symbol. And my uncle, who's actually a big-time Miami fan, actually wore that shirt to the game. And I posted that on my Facebook and say, look, we got a converter right here. So we have had a lot of people. My auntie Keisha, her ex-boyfriend played at Miami. His name was Dennis Scott. Mm-hmm. She became a Clemson fan. And so I've had a lot of people convert to Clemson just because of me. And now the way we're playing, they're actually jumping ship from Miami and coming over to Clemson.
Chris Chancellor, PT, really appreciate your time, and I'll let you get back to keeping everybody in line on Facebook.
I appreciate it, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
All right.
Okay, thank you to Chris for taking the time to sit down with us. Really enjoyed that. Really impressed with the man he's become. So thanks to Mr. Chancellor for sitting down with us. Also, thank you to title sponsor Parham Smith and Archenhold Law Firm in downtown Greenville. Also, the Abernathy Boutique Hotel in Clemson. And finally, last but definitely not least, Tandem Payment in Greenville. Thanks to all of you for making this a part of your routine. And we'll have the next podcast this week scheduled to drop Friday morning as usual. So everyone have a wonderful week. Cheers.